I'm out doing some work in a deer bedroom today. Notice we got lots of these nice rubs all throughout this deer bedding area. But today I'm doing the detail work to tell the deer where I want them to bed. So stick with me and I'll show you what I'm up to. Alright, look at how thick and awesome this bedding area is. You can see all the big trees were removed in this area when we had some logging done. We took out primarily aspen out of here and a handful of mature oaks. We do have a lot of oaks that we left in this piece, but in this particular spot we took out the oaks because we wanted maximum aspen regen. You can see there is nothing left up in the canopy, and the deer have responded in a big way. I mean, I'm standing right here. This is a nice gradual slope that works up to the peak up there of the ridge, but in this ravine right here I got a rub. You can see another rub up there. If I swing around, we got another rub right there. Looking up over there, there's a rub. I mean, I bet I found 40 rubs throughout this little aspen pocket today. So my main focus today was to get in here and just continue to cut trails and pockets through this stuff. Now, when you log your aspen, you don't have to do this type of detail work. I love doing it, so I'm going to get in here and I'm going to run the saw and I'm going to really make as much usable space in these bedding areas as possible. But if you just pull out the aspen, get lots of sunlight in, the deer will find it. My goal today was to continue to cut trails and pockets through this. So you can see, this trail I'm on right here is one I blazed in today. There are beds all over. There's a big bed right there. Beds all over throughout this particular aspen cut. Alright, so there's a really big, well-used bed right there. And why are the deer choosing a bed right here? Well, one, it's a nice, shadows are messing with me. It's a really nice flat spot. South-facing exposure right here. If I get down to the deer's level, I cut out that escape today. Got one that way. They had one that way. We got one out that way, one out that way, and one right here. And then also got this ironwood growing. I chose not to cut that. And sometimes when we have these little isolated islands of trees within the aspen, the deer will relate to that diversity, that extra structure, and they'll come bed right next to spots like this. But this is a foolproof bedding location. The field is not that far away. You could just hear that car a second ago. Not that far from the road, but they can sit here, soak in that southerly sun, and have, if it's a cold front, have the northwest wind blowing over their back and not be in danger. You can see you got deer hair throughout this one. So this is a spot that gets used a lot. I came in here I think it was last summer, to do some of this detail work. I remember this bed because this was just matted down with hair. Awesome location. The sheer volume of activity I've seen in this one, just with the deer sign and all the rubs, and a rub right there, is crazy. You can look, we got deer scat all the way throughout this one, and it is all over the place. The trails, these are trails I had cut in previously. This trail is just loaded with deer scat, and they're getting used. And the beds that I cut in previously, they're getting used. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's unreal how much the deer have been in here. And you can't go probably 10 feet without hitting some type of rub there. And look at just the mat of hair as I work my way through here. Now this is another spot that's set up with a lot of beds last year. Big, it's wet now, so they're probably not bedding on it right now. Last summer I saw a big bed there. Cut this way, look at that rub. It was a nice bed right there. We had another bed up in there. I mean, this whole southerly exposure sets up awesome for bedding because one, it's just, they love south-facing slopes, but two, there's all these tiny little flat spots throughout it. So when I was cutting today, I made sure to hone in on locations like that that the deer couldn't access. Like right here, for example. This was a mess. Came in, cleaned it up. Now look, I got a great location where a deer can lie down. I got a very nice backstop right there with the log. I can jump over the log, get out my escape, cutting out the back way right there. I just sit down on the log here. You can see escape working out that way, escape working out that way, and actually right there might set up as a bedding location too. So I was honing in again, something different. Had a couple of trees growing right here. Got the cherry, and then actually, unfortunately, a buckthorn, which I'll come back and kill that bugger. But he's growing right there too. So a little something different within the aspen. Nice flat spot, beautiful lookout. So I cleared the way and just created one more spot for the deer to bed down. Again, I mentioned that we did pull a few oaks out of here. Let's see, that was an oak. But this is really cool to see. See that regen coming off that oak tree right there? So we're gonna get a little bit of oak regen in here. But we wanted, there was a good handful of oaks up on this hilltop, and I knew if we left them, we weren't gonna get this kind of aspen regen. And we want this to be an aspen bedding area, so we pulled them out of here so we could have that zero canopy. But I still invite having some diversity in this area, so I do want some oaks to kind of come back. And then we have, actually, once you get off towards the edges of all this, there's plenty of oaks that we left as well. But I like being able to see that we're getting some oak regen. Oaks regenerate two ways, from the acorns, and then if you do a logging or you cut an oak, so logging operation or flush cut an oak, you will get those stump sprouts, and if they can get past the deer, that will be a tree eventually. All right, here's kind of my main run that cuts up through this bedding area. Now, I worked my way out this way. I did some cleanup work down through there. And look at this again. You can just see this was used very heavily. Now I cut this one in, I think post-logging within a year or two. This is going to be its 5th year of growth this summer, because we logged, 5 years ago this summer. So I came in right away and I cut this back, and when you cut aspen, they don't stump sprout, so they're not going to regenerate, you know, those little aspen whips that you're cutting. You don't have to worry about those regenerating. If you do get plenty of sun into these trails, you might get a little regeneration off the root system, but generally aspen need a lot of sun to get going. So I mean, here you can see some of this stuff is probably 2 or 3 years ago that I cut it, and there's nothing coming back. I mean, that trail's nice and open, so don't have to worry about a lot of herbicide usage in this situation. Now I wanted these trails cutting through here because I do have, oh darn it, a little bit of buckthorn that I just, like here's one right here. I might have actually killed this one. This one don't look too healthy. Might have sprayed him last year, but I missed a few before we logged in here, and boy, you miss them, they'll let you know that they're still here. So I did cut some trails very purposely today, just towards buckthorn shrubs that I saw that were still out here. And they could have, I mean, some of these could have come from seeds too, that were just sitting there. The birds pooped out and Now that they had sunlight, they took off, but there were a few mature ones, so I know I missed some. All right, here's nature's hinge cut right here. So we got a down basswood, multiple trunks here. Those two trunks have started new trees all the way down the old trunk. You can see the new trees right there, but this is an awesome spot. This is why I like hinge cutting, for this very reason. Propped up cover, and what do we have here? Massive bed. This has been a spot that has bedded deer for a while. This kind of feels like buck bedding to me, just because it's a little island of open, very small island of open, right in the middle of all this regen. So this would be a spot I could see a buck hanging out, just because they have all the advantage sitting here. They can see 360, but yet they're still right in the middle of all the thick cover, but tons of escapes. Escapes going that way. I added a new one, cutting out that direction today, and you can see my trail coming in. So bulletproof location for a buck to bed. Now I got trails going all the way through there, but you can see the video is already 10 minutes long, so I'm gonna go show you one other spot I worked on today, and then we'll call it a day. All right, kind of back on that main run. So this is kind of the crest of the hill right here, and there is a very good trail cutting through the middle of it. And again, this is a spot that loads up with beds, especially if I sneak in here. If I have to kill buckthorn or whatever, I'll see a lot of beds right here. Now we have a little island to open again. I'll get a lot of bedding right here, and a lot of bedding right off to the edges of all this. And again, shredded. I mean, all the way around this thing are rubs. But I cleared out pockets around this because they like bedding right on the edges of this. I saw some beds up in here, kind of right, I think right there. So I opened this up a little bit and gave them different spots that they could bed up on this southerly exposure. Now it's funny, my actually original plan was to come in here and cut for an hour right here. What I have here is a north facing slope with a lot of ironwood, and then there's a few more aspen I could knock down right over here. I was going to probably just focus on the ironwood today and get kind of these ironwood in this area knocked down, because I like giving diverse bedding options for the deer. They love the aspen regen, but when I can find, like we found those little islands in there, you know, it's something different. Some of the deer will relate to that. If I can get a few hinge cut beds going, the deer will relate to that. And that's what I did, is I came in here and I cleared out a couple spots right there, and then my main bed is right there to make a little canopied bed for the deer. So as I walk in this one, you can see we got the bed right here. I kneel down, you can see I got an escape out that way, and then there's a tunnel cutting out that way through the aspen regen. And right behind us, we have a thick wall of cover with a nice canopy overhead. So these were ironwood. I always said they're a very marginal tree to hinge cut, but they will, even if they die, which there's a decent chance they will die, the cover will stay propped up like this for several years because of how hard that wood is. So I'll keep this nice little canopy here for several years, and the deer will have this as there's not going to be much settling with these ironwood. They'll have this as a bedding option for quite a few years to come. Now again, this is a north facing slope, so it's not as attractive as the southerly slopes, but we do get warm ruts. We do get warm days in the spring and even the winter, and you will find beds in these locations. So we want to give them the deer as many options as possible. So even though it's more north facing bedding, this is still going to be a really nice option for the deer. One thing I should note with this Aspen Regen, now, like I said, this is going into its 5th year of growth. So it's going to be, I mean, it'll be good viable cover for really 7 to 10 years before all these stems outgrow the deer, because you can see we still got plenty of branches down low, plenty of buds that they can browse, but there is going to be a point where eventually this will all outgrow the deer. So getting in and doing this detail work now kind of gets my main trails established. So when there's going to be a point I'm going to have to reset all of this. So when I come to do that, if I keep picking away at this regen and keep trying to make it as open as possible, it's going to be easy for me to come in and just keep my main trails open and lay down everything in these spots where I don't have these established beds and trails. And it's just going to be less to cut, because as I keep cutting away at this, you know, this is going to keep thinning as it gets taller, and yeah, it'll just make a little bit less work for me when I have to reset all this. But yeah, 7 to 10 years, I mean, this stuff will stay good for that long, sometimes even a little bit longer, but that's probably at that 7-year mark is when I'm gonna start picking away at it and start resetting pockets of this. I probably won't do it all at once, but you know, I'll choose quarter, half acre spots and maybe bust it up into 3 years of cutting, because this does run quite a ways that direction. So I'll have a lot of cutting that I can do in here. But for now, still good viable cover, still plenty of stems for the deer to browse at. But there will be a point this all needs to get cut again. Well, that was the project for today. Beautiful day in Minnesota. Man, was it nice. You know, this stuff is as exciting for me as seeing like my target buck off the bow stand. I don't know. It's just fun when it's beautiful weather like this and you can already see the deer using the work you're doing and just out making it a little bit better. So really, really fun day to be in the woods. All right, y'all take care. God bless.